Greetings and salutations. Welcome to episode 103 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the stoner. Trev is going to be coming in hot. He's in fact so hot.
So hot.
The man literally heard me say his name, and he's backstage waiting for us. So perfect timing, Trev. So Trev is here on episode 103, and it's the season end, gentlemen. There is no more Washington Commanders football to play in the 2022-2023 season. We've got to wait. We've got 16 episodes, not including this one, rather, to get to the draft.
Just the draft.
The draft. But hey, that's 16 weeks of a lot of content because this team never fails to disappoint. In fact, we've got lots to talk about this episode. We will be giving our season awards away in the cool down. So get ready for your MVP, your least valuable player, who what was your favorite moment, all that good stuff coming up in the cool down. During the game, we are going to talk about Scott Turner finally leaving. Scotty's got to go, and Scotty is gone. So Scott Turner's gone. Who are we going to replace him with? What are we going to do with that? We'll talk a little bit in the warm-up about the presser and that 2-to-1 comment that I'm hearing in the comment section right now as well, the 2-to-1 run to pass ratio. But we're going to start off just touching a little bit. These two here were not here for the day after reckoning. So I want to give them a chance to tell us about what their final thoughts were on that Dallas game. And since Trev came in last, we're going to give him first tips here.
Okay.
No warm-up, sir. You can warm it up right now.
All right, word. My thoughts on the game on Sunday. Thought it was brilliant. Thought it was one of the most put-together games we've had all season, and we were shorthanded. We weren't even at full capacity, at full strength with our squad, and we played against Dallas's full strength and squad. Yeah, we were 8-1. We saw flashes of this during the season. We beat Philly, the Packers. We saw flashes of this when we lost, too, as well. No matter who was up under center. I thought Sam Howell did great. The kid never looked nervous. I think his worst mistake was probably the interception in the end zone and maybe another one that I'm forgetting. But other than that, the 2 drops were not on him. They're on the receivers. Other than that, he showed poise. He showed confidence, like he was comfortable. I could barely even get that kid to smile after he did something great. He was just like, all right, cool. Let's just keep going. You like to see that from your rookie quarterback. But just imagine what we could have done. And we still left points out there on the field. We did. But just imagine what we could have done when we had Jonathan Allen, Cam Curl, St. Juiced. If we were at full strength on both sides of the ball, just imagine what our season could have been like all year. But it's nice to see. I know it's so cliche. No one wants to hear it. But it's nice to see that you have something to literally build on for next year. No matter the owners, coach, as far as players and stuff, you can see okay, he can play this spot, or he can play that spot, or he can do this, he can do that. So it was nice to see that we're capable of being a complementary football team. But we just got to get the right minds in here.
Stoner, they cost themselves 2 spots in the draft. I know that doesn't matter to you.
2 spots?
2 spots. From 14 to 16. Stoner, what did you think about Washington walloping? You kind of were like, yeah, we gave up a lot of points. It definitely felt like it should have been a 40-6 game.
Sure.
It ended up being 26-6, beating that division rival. What did it mean to you, and how did that feel?
Yeah, it's a big deal. First of all, I can't believe we got to wait all that anticipation for the season, all the buildup and everything. Poof, it's gone. It went by so fast. I can't believe that was the last game last week and that we're not in the playoffs. And at 7-5, all you had to do is win 2 games out of the last 5, and you'd be in the playoffs.
Oh
and you could only imagine, or you could only get 1. So that part really stinks that we've got to wait another 7 months, 8 months before a meaningful football game. God, that part sucks. But you're right, Trev. That game, I can't imagine rooting for my team to lose against a hated rival at home when they have something to play for, and you're kind of helping them blow up their spot, what they're trying to do, and you're responsible for that. And you have this rookie quarterback go in there and do what he did. And we always talk about whenever they win on a Sunday, it sets the tone for your whole week, and it makes you feel really good that whole week. You wake up Monday morning and you feel good. Well, now we wake up every morning for the next 8 months feeling pretty good because we won that last game. And that's what sports is all about. That's what following and being a fan of this team is all about. It's feeling good because those guys that you root for played well and beat your rival at home when they had something to play for.
Exactly.
It's kind of like what Detroit did to Green Bay. They had nothing to play for.
Yeah,
just you had Detroit players crying afterwards.
I was gonna say, running around giving high fives at the stands, like
their whole season was made. Their whole off season, everything is great for them now, and they had nothing to play for. And kind of the same for Washington, nothing to play for except ruining it for them. So it was a great feeling coming off of a win going into the off season. Sets the tone for the off season.
I know. It's just going to be one of those things when Dallas loses to Tampa Bay and they end their season on those 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to be Dallas fans are going to be so miserable up until after the draft. And then they're going to be like, we them boys, it's our season and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But up until that point, they're going to want the coaches fired. They're going to want all this stuff that a team that went to the playoffs shouldn't necessarily want. They should be happy headed into the playoffs, and they're miserable right now. And and when they lose to Tampa Bay, they're going to be even more miserable. And I am appropriately wearing our Keep That Same Energy shirt.
I'm gonna put that one on too,
because it is just kind of one of those things to be happy when your team wins. Now, let's nitpick a little bit here.
Okay.
I love it.
What did you think about Sam Howell in a game that you kind of want to see him? It's really a preseason game because nothing's on the line for you outside of upsetting your division rivals there. He only gets 19 pass attempts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the play calling, Stoner?
Well, I didn't really want him. I understand what people are saying. You want to see him basically throw every play, right? But I wanted to have him managed so that he has that confidence going into the offseason. If he went out there and threw the ball 38 times and ends up throwing 3 picks because he's just constantly throwing and they're figuring it out, okay, he's going to constantly throw. And then as the game progresses, things start falling apart, and then he doesn't have a good feeling going into the offseason. He loses a little bit of that confidence, but he feels good about what he did out there. And I feel good about what he did out there. I've turned a corner on Sam Howell. I have not turned the corner to Sam Howell drive. I have turned a corner, and he gave me a little bit of hope, but I'm not ready to anoint him the starter and build around him and all that other stuff. No, I'm not there. And I probably won't be because there's nothing that can be
not off of 19 pass attempts.
Yeah, there's nothing that I can look at and that's going to happen this offseason for me to be able to say I'm okay with Sam Howell as the starter for next year. I'm not. But I turned a corner because he didn't embarrass himself. So I was happy that they managed him and didn't let him go out there and just sling it and have a lot of different issues. Managed him properly, didn't let him throw too much, ran the ball, won the game. That was the most important part.
How about you, Trev? That play calling, only 19 passes, definitely there in the fourth quarter. Instead of running up the score or seeing what you can potentially do with this rookie quarterback, both teams were content and running it out. Dallas gave up. The white flag came in, about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I think you still had Dak out there, but 5 minutes left. They put in Cooper Rush. But even that last Dak drive was kind of we want to get out of here.
Yeah. I'm just going to piggyback what Stoner says. At the time, you were caught up in the hype. Yeah, let Sam Howell rip it downfield, like bombs all day, bombs all day, bombs all day. But after you got settled in and after the game a little bit, you kind of are like, yeah, I'm glad he only passed 19 attempts because, it's his first game. You want him to get settled in. You want him to manage it. And at the end of the day, what quarterback performance are we talking about from that game? Dak's. Why? He was 14 for what? 37?
God awful.
Yeah. A pick and, his low QBR. That's what we're talking about today. And he is a veteran in the game. Nobody's talking about Sam Howell's stats. What are they talking about? He won the game. His poise, his calmness. He chose to run at the appropriate times. He executed RPOs when they were called for him the correct way. He scored off of one of them. So like that's the difference. What quarterback are you talking about after the game? Dak Prescott. So, and like you said, Stoner, we didn't want him to go out there and throw 35, 40 passes and throw 3 picks. And then you'll be calling for, he's not the guy, trade him, practice squad. You know how this fan base is. So that's what you would hear. What he did gets you in the conversation of, well, let's just see what the kid can do in the offseason, how well he treats the offseason program, how he attacks it, with the idea of maybe being QB1. So I was satisfied.
I guess I'm in the minority here on Ref the District. 18 of those 19 passes made me want to see 18 more passes. Like there was only the one pass that was bad, and that was that interception and triple coverage. But outside of that, those 18 passes, whether or not they were throwaways or the 2 drops that you mentioned, Trev, they made me want to see more from him. I'm with you, Stoner. I'm not ready to crown him QB1, but he definitely has earned himself the right to QB competition, depending on who they bring in, because that part is going to be important. We're going to have lots of that content coming up here on the channel. We're currently in the warm-up. The warm-up is brought to you by Sky Bar. Make sure you head out to Lexington, Virginia, or if you find yourself in the area, head out to Sky Bar. They're open on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays. So you can check them out. Check our man Trev out and mention Ref the District, and your first drink is on us. So make sure you get out there and take advantage of that. Not Pacers running, but Sky Bar sponsoring the warm-up. Of course, we also love seeing everybody here in chat. We got Yam, Tommy T, Doug, we got Gus Bus, we got Al Catone, EP in the house. EP Allison in here joining us as well. Thank you, Allison. First String Podcast. Make sure you head out to this channel here, First String. Great group of guys.
Love them,
good
dudes.
Content out there. And you'll actually hear the front man of First String Podcast. He gets on the local radio channels here as well every now and then. So make sure you head out there and support those guys. Great group of guys. Let's see. Who else do we got out here? We got Mike G, Corey Lott, Gregory. There's so many more. I appreciate everybody getting there. John Armstrong, what up? Happy to have you here. Redskin 007. Appreciate you jumping in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button for us. And for the others that haven't yet commented, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all that support. Super Chat's always open. And, we appreciate that support here. Mike Lee just got here just in time, Mike, as we shift the conversation from what happened on Sunday to what happened on Monday with the press conference between with Ron Rivera and Mayhew, Marty Mayhew. A lot of people in the comment section right now talking about the running the ball 2-to-1 passing ratio. Trev, do you think Washington, that's a yes or no question here, so I'm going to try to change it up a little bit. Is this an old school mindset, or is this just what their identity needs to be to win football games under Ron Rivera?
It could be perceived as both. And I have, for my reasons, is one, when everybody hears run the ball 2-to-1 and who our staff is Ron Rivera, they're going to think old school, ground and pound. But then JP Finley was on Let Maul Tell It's podcast, and he said the Rams Super Bowl offense was a run first offense. The Niners, with all the motions and trickery, they're a run first offense. And I'm thinking, just because he said 2-to-1 doesn't mean we're going to line up in the power eye every time and just plunge ahead. You can decide. You can run it all kinds of ways: wildcat, sweep, jet sweeps, reverses, options, direct snaps, all kinds of different things you can do to run. So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't like the fact that our GM is telling everybody what our offensive plan is going to do. I have a problem with that. I mean, I know he's the GM, but I think you should maybe talk to the coach or whatever, offensive coordinators, and decide what it is, and then plan accordingly within your role. But for him to get up there and say we want to be 2-1, I just don't like that, because it's like, all right, well, now you're putting a demographic on the people you want to come fit this offense already before even free agency even starts, the draft even starts. You're already putting a mold out there that want to fit, instead of just saying, this is kind of what we want to do. I don't know. It's just different. But to answer the real question, it can either be old school or it can be creative. Just depends on who comes in and executes the 2-1 ratio they're talking about.
Yeah, I think the GM weighing in on it signals where the as far as what players he's going to be looking for, it's where it's going to go. And so that aspect is pretty interesting, especially as one of the things they continuously talked about these last few weeks was they're back in the QB search market. And Stoner, this is something you touched on through our channel, our Twitter, is normally we just ignore what they say during these pressers because it's all just kind of whatever, right? There might be a good soundbite in there, and there's going to be a soundbite we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But for the most part, it's nothing. But this one you wanted to hone in on. Why is that specifically, especially in regards to that QB search?
So are you talking? Are we still talking the 2-1 ratio?
2-1, yeah. Because you're like, this is one you listen to, is what you said on our Twitter channels. Like, ignore most of it, but this is the one you have to listen to, and then you kind of led into what that meant for a QB. So I just want you to expand on that here for us.
Well, if you are going to place that stat, if you're going to say we are going to be a 2-1 running offense, then you don't need to go out and spend $28 million on a quarterback. So that part is what doesn't mesh, right? You don't need a quarterback, a drop back, old school type quarterback like Carson Wentz if your philosophy is to run the ball all the time or twice as much as you throw it. But you're right in what Trev said, is that you don't have to just line up in an I formation and run the ball. Or you know what I mean? You have to be creative with that running. Bubble screen is a pass, but it's really a run. It's just trying to get it to your receiver in space. It's behind the line of scrimmage. So that's not really a run, but it's essentially a run. And just plays like that, when a guy comes across and you toss it to him in front of you, that's a pass, right? If he drops it, it's incomplete. Yeah. But that's a run, right? So it's things like that you have to do to keep the defense from just sitting back there and double covering your weapons. So you have to get personnel in place there. Taylor Heineke can run a 2-1 offense. Okay. Sam Howell can run a 2-1 offense. So you don't need a Carson Wentz at $28 million to run. So that's where it doesn't jive with what they're saying and what they're doing. And that's why I had a problem with that. But some of the stuff they say in those press conferences, they're just a bunch of mumbo jumbo because somebody asked a specific question.
Plot fillers.
I mean, they asked about Scott Turner, and they gave a very generic answer, and then 2 hours later they announced they can. Right? So they're just kind of talking because they have to, and people get mad. They say, why is he even talking about that? Well, he was asked a question, so he's got to answer it somehow. But in that particular case, everybody know the biggest thing out there right now is this whole run the damn ball, right? Charles Leno is all over social media with these hats and everything about run the damn ball or run the ball. I don't think it says damn on there. We've talked about it all year. It
says damn.
Yeah. You want to run the ball, right? Because that's what opens up your offense. And there are very few quarterbacks in this league who can throw passes to set up your run. There's very few of them. And we don't have that here, and most teams don't have that.
Tom Brady has how many rings because of play action?
Right, exactly. Because they ran the ball quite a bit.
They might not have stud running backs, but they ran the ball.
Patrick Mahomes throws to set up the run, okay? Because that's the special talent that he is. So that's a little bit different. But not many teams have that sort of player that can just sling it all over the place, and no matter what you do, he's going to figure it out. So just match up the personnel with what you're saying is your philosophy. Okay, but in the beginning of the year, what were they doing? They were throwing the ball 45 times.
Mm-hmm.
And don't give me this Brian Robinson was hurt and wasn't playing. If your philosophy is to run the ball, then run the ball.
Yeah.
Don't say your philosophy is to run the ball and then throw it 45 times.
Yeah, I think I saw the breakdown and it was not 60-40 pass, but it did lean more towards the pass than the run. So if you're a run the ball 2-to-1 ratio, you failed miserably at that during the season. So I do think that we had some comments here. It's not a literal 2-to-1.
Right,
but it is the mentality of we want to run the ball. We want this. And I think, honestly, they went out there and they got Carson Wentz because they saw him successful in Indianapolis, where it was more of a run first offense. They were going through Jonathan Taylor, and he had a winning season, not a successful season in the sense that they made it to the playoffs, but a winning season at least. And that's why they traded to see if he would fit in their particular offense. It didn't quite work out. But it will be interesting to see where they go for a QB with this kind of comment there, to see if as Gregory mentioned, so good then. We don't need an overpriced QB or to give up the farm for one. If you say that this is the kind of offense you want to run, that you're good with a game manager and not necessarily a game breaker, then you don't have to give up anymore.
Well, they can say that, but let's not get kind of carried away in this whole thing. When it comes down to it, you need that game breaker quarterback if you want to go further into the playoffs. If you look at the playoffs teams, yes, there are some outliers like San Francisco, okay, with the third string quarterback out there. But by and large, every one of those teams has a franchise quarterback that you need in order to win these games. And that's how they are going to win these games. Okay. They're not going to win by running the ball 40 times and throwing it 20. That's not how it's going to work in the playoffs. That can get you there, and it might once or twice might once in the playoffs, but you have to be able to have that quarterback that when a team shuts you down running the ball, that he has to make up for that. And that's what you're going to see in the playoffs.
All right. So we have we have 6 games going this super wild card weekend.
Love it.
How many of those games will feature a team with more rushing attempts than passing attempts?
Is San Francisco playing this weekend?
Yes.
Okay. 1. Okay. San Francisco might have more rushes than throwing the ball. But everyone else is probably going to end up throwing the ball more than they're running it. Maybe a Baltimore, okay, because
they're going to have to run. They don't have a quarterback.
Right. They may be on their third string quarterback as well, but they're in trouble if Lamar's not playing.
He's not playing.
Yeah, they're going to lose. They're definitely going to lose that game. Tua is not playing. They're starting a third stringer, maybe Bridgewater's playing. Who knows?
No, he's not. Skylar Thompson.
But they're not. You're only going to see probably one team that's going to run the ball more than they're going to throw it. And that's San Francisco, because they're very good at it. Okay. They've been built that way. And that's probably it. You're just going to see guys throwing the ball. That's how you win this time of year, because the team on the other side is a good team now. It's not, you're not playing Houston. You're not playing Chicago. You're not playing these bad teams now to where you can just run the ball and not worry about it. There's that team on the other side is going to score some points. Okay. And you're going to need to overcome that. And you do that with a better quarterback.
All right. Allison's asking the important question here. Dollar, you're good with putting it at 1 game out of the 6?
I probably want to look at it real closely, because I haven't looked at it.
No, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Yeah. But if I'm just putting me on the spot right now,
come on,
maybe Seattle. So Seattle's the 1 game they're playing San Fran, right? So if you're asking me teams or if you're asking me games,
how many out of the 6 will feature a team? So there's 12 teams, obviously, but all we need is 1 team out of those, out of those games to run more than they'll pass.
Yeah, I might go with 2. I mean, you might
2?
see the Giants run the ball more.
What if I put it at 1.5, the over under? Because I don't want any ties here.
Put it at 2.5, and I'll go under.
Trav, would you take the over?
No, I'm not touching this.
I think it's gonna be 2 games as would be my guess, which is why I there's no way it's just gonna be one Stoner is the big thing. So but we'll see how it all breaks down. Yeah.
The point is
you need a pass.
You need a quarterback.
You can't
overcome that.
You can't sit there necessarily and there
you do, Trev.
Trev,
where do you not? Where do you
look at Tennessee, and you can go no further, right?
Jimmy G led the 49ers to the Super Bowl without.
That's 49ers. That's the one team that I'm saying is
one team that he's going to stay.
It can be done, though, is what we're saying.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy G's probably better than Ryan Tannehill, but you have Derrick Henry, who is one of the best backs of all time, and Tennessee can't make it to the Super Bowl with Tannehill, with this whole run the ball 2 to 1 time. So this is what we're saying for as far as the Commanders is having this mentality of 2 to 1 is fine to get us to the playoffs, but you need to have a QB to win, and that's where Stoner is at with this.
Yeah,
you do, but it's going to be a long time before we win. It's been a long time since we made it to the postseason, so baby steps. Let's just get to the postseason and go from there. You can do it if you have the weapons around your quarterback to be able to do it. Like you said, in Tennessee, King Henry, but when it's time for play action, he ain't got nobody to throw the ball to because he has no receivers and he's not that kind of quarterback.
They had A.J. Brown.
Exactly. And look what happened.
Well, and then they got to deeper.
They had Julio Jones for a
one
year.
Seeds. Yeah, they were 1 seeds and 2 seeds. So they were making the postseason. Exactly. But when you don't have weapons around to do the 2 to 1, it's going to be 3 to 1, maybe even 4. And that's what the Titans kind of resorted down to this past 5-7 game losing streak they had because they didn't have a quarterback or Derrick Henry.
And by the way, I want to reiterate, it's gonna trigger everybody on here, but Dallas is beating Tampa this week.
No, they're not, dude.
You got Gregory with you. That one's still a heated battle going on in the comments section. Here we are talking about the playoffs, and Washington didn't even make it. Washington did the near impossible and went 500 in a 17-game season. Ron Rivera's comments on that particular kind of development and where this team is saying, wins losses aren't really the end all be all of the growth that we've seen in this team. Trev, what growth have you seen this season to say that Ron Rivera is progressing in his coaching and this team's progressing on their way to potentially becoming Super Bowl contenders?
To be honest, and it might not even count. It might just be the coordinator, but Ron brought him in. Our defense has been like top 10 defense past 2 out of 3 years. He's been there. I will say that. I mean, normally we're used to seeing our defense getting pummeled, on third downs. We were just on the field all the time. The past 2 out of 3 years, our defense has stepped up. I don't know if it's JDR or Ron as a whole, but it's under his belt. So that's a little bit of growth. And then the most obvious is we won 1 more game, lost one fewer game, and then have a tie. Other than that,
don't sugarcoat it. Come on, Trev.
Nothing.
That's a bunch of BS.
Nothing. I said other than that, nothing. Other than that, nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
This is a results-driven business.
Culture. I mean, he got rid of the ping pong tables. Everybody conducts interviews the great way. The culture is like better than what it was in previous. So that's
absolutely
I
will agree
with
that.
Product on the field. If we're talking on the field, nothing. Nothing.
You guys may not have seen this tweet, but I did just a little bit of research today that there is one team out of 32 teams. Are there 32 teams or are there out of 32 teams? I always get it mixed up. One team that has a coach that has 3 consecutive years of 500 or less. and that's Washington.
That a
Okay.
baby?
There
That a
are
baby?
there are 3 teams that have had 2 straight. Okay. There's 2 that have 2 straight 500 or worse seasons. That's Cleveland with Stefanski.
Hey,
That's the Jets with Robert Saleh.
already?
Saleh, however you say it, right?
Yeah.
And I already forgot the 3rd team.
Us.
No, there's another one. Okay,
All right, I'm pulling up the tweet for you here. Let me
thank
bring
you.
it over
So,
here. I
but
can
there's
actually
3
look at the
teams.
camera.
Oh, it's the Falcons with Arthur Smith.
Okay.
Okay, tell me this:
Yeah.
if any of those 3 teams next year don't go better than 500, do you think any of those 3 coaches are still going to be there?
No.
Of course not.
Heck
You have,
no.
and then if you look at teams like the teams right here in our own division, the Eagles, okay, with the 2nd-year coach and what he's done in those 2 years, the Giants and what they've done in their year 1, the Cowboys, like it or not, in the 3 years that McCarthy's been there, the last 2, they've won 12 games both years. And if you look at all these teams with the Packers and with Cincinnati and their new coach, okay, it doesn't take 4 freaking years to turn around a team.
You know what it takes? And all those 4 teams have something that we don't have.
A quarterback?
Good ownership.
Maybe.
Philadelphia, Howie Laurie, was that his name? Howie Laurie or whatever, Roseman, whatever it is. Jeffrey Laurie.
Howie Roseman's the.
What did he do? He went and got A.J. Brown. He drafted Devontae Smith. He drafted Jalen Hurts. He got Ndamukong Suh. He got Robert Quinn. He got Jordan Davis from Georgia. He got hurt, but that outstanding rookie. He got Nakobe Dean in the draft.
You got Darius Slay.
Slay.
Who's that other guy they took from New Orleans for peanuts? The other DB.
Charles Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
So
the
Packers. I mean,
I wouldn't put that on the owner. I
like,
would put that on the GM.
The GM. Okay. Well, front office. How about that? We'll put on the front office.
Yeah.
All those successful Joe Burrow, the Bengals. You went and got a young coach in Zach Taylor who was on the hot seat, but then you went and got a quarterback, and you allowed the quarterback to pick his receiver, and then you went in free agency with some other studs. Like front offices,
right,
are the reason why these teams are successful, and we don't have a successful front office. We haven't had a consistent one, and it hasn't been successful.
Well, and that's fair, and I totally
we had
agree
so
with
many
that.
chances to improve this team, and we go get John Bostic, we go get Brian Johnson, we go get Joey Sly, we go get Reggie Bonifone, like we go get players that Ron has coached or has-beens. We go get Thomas Davis to try to revive his career here because he was great in Carolina.
Trey Turner, Andrew
Trey
Norwell.
Turner, like you know what I mean? Like we don't do anything, and I think that has to do with front office, not just Ron Rivera, but also front office.
Yeah.
And then if you give your head coach front office moves and he doesn't do accordingly, what's that tell you? Stop being scared.
And that's right. And Gus Bus has a great point here. Everybody on the planet said that the Bengals were going to take Sewell, the offensive tackle, because Joe Burrow was just pummeled his first year and blew out his ACL because Chase Young, I think, and a couple of guys hit him so hard and blew out his knee, right? And everybody in the world said that they were going to go get a left tackle to protect him. No, they said we're going to go get another playmaker, and they took Jamar Chase over Sewell. And when they went to the Super Bowl, now, he still got sacked a billion times,
but specifically in the Super Bowl, he had a wide open Jamar Chase, but he didn't have the time to throw to him.
Yeah.
So as
Emerald
says, we need to upgrade
the
our
next
O-line.
year. What they do, they went and got veteran or linemen out of free agency, Alex Kappa, this and that, blah 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 blah.
And they're right back there as a favorite in the playoffs to make it back to the Super Bowl possibly. They got a gauntlet to get through, but yeah. So it's front office decisions that they're doing. And are we moving on to the Scott Turner thing yet? Or are we waiting for the game?
We're waiting. That's for the game. We'll get there. This is still the 8-1 part here. I'm going to read off E's comment here. Okay. E says, we still have better personnel than the Eagles other than QB, and Ron makes all the decisions. That is a bold statement, E. I might need to take off the burgundy and gold glasses.
I think I said that before we played the Eagles in that second game is that I would put our weapons, other than quarterback, up against theirs any day. I would take ours over theirs any day.
I'm sorry. I love Terry McLaurin, but AJ Brown is beasting Terry McLaurin. I'm sorry. I love Terry.
I think they're A and
pretty equal.
A1 and 1A. And their second receivers, Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson, 1A and 1B. They're the same guy pretty much. And then their third guy and our third guy, Quez Watkins and Curtis Samuel, 1A and 1B. Our running backs, Robinson and Gibson.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders and
Gainwell.
And Scott and Gainwell. 1As and 1Bs. They got a
better
tight
end.
And they got a better quarterback, and that makes all the difference.
And better secondary.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about weapons. So and that's what the comment was as well from Elion. So,
yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. Well, any lasting comments on Ron's 8-8-1? The wins. Don't judge him by the wins. By the way, in the preseason, and this kind of goes to our point of you ignore what they say during these pressers. And the preseason or just before the preseason says, you're going to judge me by the wins and losses. Kind of reversed that this time. You don't judge them by just wins and losses. You judge them by everything. If I have to say there was kind of one positive, and I would say that it kind of showed some growth. This is now the second year in a row we've seen them sign a key player that they drafted.
Okay.
Right. They signed Terry McLaurin in the offseason.
Yeah.
And was it this offseason as well that was Jonathan Allen, or was that the season before?
No, it was season before. Allen and Logan were the year before. And by the way,
back-to-back years, a player that they drafted.
Player they did not draft. They did not draft McLaurin. They did not draft Jonathan Allen.
You did?
No,
that's a franchise. What I'm saying that was drafted here by Washington.
Okay.
How's that?
This regime did not.
That a homegrown talent
that
they kept here in Washington. Is that fair enough for you, Stoner?
Yes.
I think that's continued growth. We see like Brandon Sheriff walked away.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are telling us, how many people told us that Brandon Sheriff is not going to be missed here in DC?
I kind of said it.
You were one of them. Yeah, Trev.
Because
Stoner
it was adorable.
Stoner and I were like, no, you're
Jacksonville adorable. It's funny how he goes to Jacksonville and he can play all season, but here he couldn't play a whole daggone season.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's fair, but you got to keep players like that. That was on our offseason priority list. That was top 3 of our offseason priority list last year. That was before Trev came on board with us. That Nathan and I had. We said offseason priority, sign Brandon Sheriff. Okay, because guards like that are just not floating around out there. And he's not a world beater, okay, but he's better than Trey Turner.
Well, yeah, and we obviously know that, but he was good when he was healthy, but he was unhealthy a lot in Washington. That's a fair statement. He was.
That's a fair statement.
He never played a whole season. I know offensive linemen, are more likely to get hurt than any other player, but
other than Charles Leno.
Yeah.
He's got 127 straight starts, something like that. That's insane.
So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
I get it. It's kind of like what we're talking about with Daron Payne, and it's not injuries, but it's you want to keep him, but are you willing to pay $20+ million a year for him?
And Lamar Jackson.
And Tommy T here is in the majority. No, thank you is what he says. No, not a lot of people wanted to pay it, and because you didn't want to pay it, you get Andrew Norwell, you get Trey Turner.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
You get guards that just can't hold their own.
And then also we can't sign Terry. We can't sign, if we spend money on a guard.
You might not have gone out and got Carson Wentz.
You probably don't go out and get Carson Wentz, or you get Carson Wentz and you restructure his contract.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be
for
good with the former.
Right?
Yeah, I'd be good with the former. We all know I wasn't good with the latter. So I said the best part of that deal was you get to cut ties with them. He's already posted his thank you message. I haven't seen one from Scott Turner, and that's exactly what we're going to be going to next. Stoner mentioned it earlier. during this press conference, they're like, he did his job. We're going to evaluate it. And then it was kind of reminiscent of Taylor Heineke's going to start the final game to 3 hours later. Nope. We're going to go with the rookie. And this time it was, yeah, he did his job. 3 hours later, he's fired. And that's what we're going to be talking about right here as we get to the game.
The game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 5 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
Pacers Running for every run. They've got you taken care of. In fact, I need a new pair of shoes. I've been walking mine out and over, and so I'm in the market, and I got to get out there, and maybe I'll do another virtual fitting to make sure I'm in the right pair of shoes, because last time I was like, I'm a little bit more active, little bit more of just a straight walker now, so I might be fitted into some different shoes, but it's okay. They have the experts there, and they're going to put me in the right pair of shoes that fit my needs going forward in this year, and trying to keep the weight down a little bit, getting a little tubby here in the winter. Gonna have to shed those weights, and maybe they'll spend a draft pick on me. But what they won't be doing is having Scott Turner calling plays anymore. Scott Turner officially out as the offensive coordinator for Washington. Stoner, this was something that you and I were Scott Turner believers early on in the season. Supporters. And, maybe, okay. All right. Wow. We're going to tone it down a little bit. We're going to tone it down a little bit. So we were supporters early on. What happened throughout the season? What did we see from him, and why is he now no longer on the sidelines?
God, that's the $1 million question of what happened and why he couldn't get this offense to click. For 3 straight years, their points per game went down. It didn't matter who the quarterback was. Look, he never had a great quarterback. Okay. He's been stuck with mediocre quarterbacks. And I get that. I understand that. But that's the hand that you're dealt. And you've got to figure out a way to work to their strengths and figure out what they do well and call plays to that. And he hit his stride somewhere in the middle there, starting with that second Philadelphia game when they just ran the ball a gazillion times all over. I mean, look, when they give out Super Bowl rings to the Philadelphia Eagles this year, they should give one to Scott Turner, because he showed them what their defense lacked, and they went out and fixed it, right? They went out and got 2 big defensive tackles because Washington exposed the Eagles' weakness, which was stopping the run right up the middle. Mm-hmm. And especially when they got their big DT from Georgia when he got hurt. So, but they found their stride running the ball as much as they possibly could because they can pass protect. And Charles Leno said it, I believe, in those exit interviews to the media. He said, that's when we got our identity. That's when we figured out who we were in that Philadelphia game. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, we got away from it. And we just kept throwing the ball too much. And they got away from that identity. And that's on the offensive coordinator. He couldn't figure out how to run that ball in proper situations. And when he was running these jet sweeps later in the year, they weren't working. But he kept going to them instead of stop doing that and run these guys up the middle, run B-Rob and Jonathan Williams and even Gibson. So I don't know why he did that, why he kept doing that, why he kept having Taylor Heineke make 5-step drops from the shotgun with this offensive line at your own goal line. That's a recipe for disaster, and he would do that constantly, which got this team in trouble. So I have no problem with them firing Scott Turner because the results just weren't there. I do have a problem with them not firing Ron Rivera because he's the man in charge of all of this. He's the personnel guy. Okay. He's the final say. And I think eventually that'll be his undoing. Ron Rivera was when he took the job, he said, I want to be in charge of the personnel. Well, he's got nobody else to blame for his bad personnel than himself. So he has used Turner as his scapegoat. Turner wasn't great. but he's given Turner all the blame when it should be on himself. I don't like to call for people's jobs, but this is us as fans, right? And let's just say it like it is. Ron Rivera should have been the first one out the door with Scott Turner, because the offense was putrid for 3 straight years. And you can say it's the quarterback, but he picked the quarterbacks year after year after year after year. And so
year 3, 2 of those 3 years, I think they averaged less than 20 points a game.
That's insane. And it went down every year as your quarterback level kind of increased, right? Is supposed to increase. Okay.
What am I
It's
supposed
to be better than Haskins.
Yeah.
Okay. Wentz is supposed to be better than Fitz.
Solidified, right? Like you're thrown into year 1. These are the QBs you have because these are the QBs you inherited. To year 2, you're supposed to go out and get your guy. They did. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he got injured. We see a lot of Taylor Heineke. Year 3, they again said, no, we don't want Taylor. We want a real QB1. They trade for Carson Wentz, and that blew up in their face. And then you see more of Taylor Heineke. And then Taylor Heineke is Taylor Heineke, and he gets himself benched. And we got to see Sam Howell once.
So somebody
were successful though, Stoner. Not even in the slightest. There was maybe a successful game here or there where you can kind of point to, but none of these QBs were successful. And you started to see some of the players kind of come out, to include Terry McLaurin liking a comment to where this wasn't a QB friendly offense and wasn't something. And Trev, where does the QB, even with the QB shuffle, where does that fall on Scott Turner and not Ron Rivera and the Martys for not giving Scott Turner the tools? Where how much of that blame is still Scott Turner's to own?
50%. Okay. I mean, you might not have had a say in who you pick, but you're supposed to coach the players that are given to you. Okay. And yeah, you had 8 quarterbacks, and maybe it's kind of hard to find out who each one is like more tailored to, but it's your job to figure that out. And if they can't do what you want them to do, you need to put them in position to see them succeed. And he did not do that. I saw somebody said the word outsmarted himself this year. As the years went on, he outsmarted himself.
Yeah.
I keep hearing he has the young creative mind. And when he got creative, he used it at the bad times. And then if it worked, he went away from it and did something completely different. B-Rob's averaging 7.5 yards a carry that Giants game. We're down 14-3. What's he do? Shakes in his boots, change the whole game plan, and we lose. Why? You heard, I don't know which beat reporter said it, but it seems like, and Stoner, you said Ron should be gone too. It seems like they had miscommunication of what they want their offense to be like.
Yeah.
You don't, and maybe Scott Turner was making the pass protection so complicated that our offensive line couldn't handle it or got confused. And maybe the verbiage of the play calls or the play calls himself are just way too outsmarting himself, trying to be way too young-minded that he got labeled. He's Norv Turner's son, so he's got to live up to Norv Turner's expectation. No, be your own person. And I think that's where it kind of went away. He just doesn't know how to sustain success when it's happening. He rather just tries to go above and beyond out of his means. Listen to the outside talk. Oh, you're Norv Turner's son. Oh, that wide receiver screen worked. Well, in Curtis Samuel in Carolina, we did this, so it'll work here. No, the game changes every year. You can't keep sticking
every
this
game.
Yeah, every game. You can't run the same offense that you ran in the Super Bowl 5-7 years ago. The game has changed. They don't make big quarterbacks like that, like Cam Newton outside of Josh Allen. They're all small, athletic, and have cannon arms. So it's just like the game has changed, and he's stuck in his ways. And I just
what about this devil's advocate in support of Scott Turner, in that we say he didn't do anything offensively or whatever? What about he took a quarterback that was sitting on a couch?
Cool.
Right? No, let me finish though. But he took a guy who hadn't played in the NFL with any consistency, right? And he made him a competent quarterback who won 12 games over 2 years. Okay? Which is, this is more than somebody who was drafted in the 5th round or somebody who was Mr. Irrelevant. Okay, this was somebody who hadn't played in the NFL in 5 years.
Who was
Okay.
a backup
And he
in the
coached them up
XFL
well
or
enough.
USFL?
But
Yeah,
he played with them before he came to us in Washington. He had him in Carolina. He had him in Houston. Like, he's had him before.
Right.
So it's not like he was on the couch because no one else would take him. It's not
Right.
like he was a dime a dozen, just happened to be on the couch and we found him. It's like, oh, well, I remember Taylor Heineke. Oh, he's on the couch. Let's try him. I've played with him before. That's the only reason why.
Okay, but he coached him up well enough to be a competent NFL quarterback. Look at some of these third stringers that are playing right now that can't do anything. The Skylar Thompson and the guy in Baltimore, the Brown kid.
Look at
they are god awful quarterbacks.
Who does Baltimore have around Anthony Brown to help him out, to make him a competent quarterback? Name 4 weapons outside of Mark Andrews.
I understand. He doesn't have it, but
and the defenses too. Brock Purdy is nothing. Come on,
but I'm talking about Skylar Thompson.
Yeah,
I'm talking about these guys who have been with teams and are just terrible out on Sundays. But at least Heineke was competent. He wasn't great.
He still has the Hive. The Hive loves this man.
If our defense wasn't what it was, there would be no Hive. Think about that.
Okay, that's all part of it. But at least he didn't go out there and throw up all over himself for 2 years. He was competent. Okay, he was a decent quarterback.
The game. I think what Stoner is getting at is fair because, through all the QB changes, through the offensive line issues and whatnot, this offense hasn't produced, and Scott needed to go. Okay, that is point blank. I do believe Scott Turner is going to find success at some point in his career as an offensive coordinator. It's going to happen. We've seen the glimpses of it. We've absolutely seen the glimpses of it. Remember how excited we were week 1 when we saw that like diamond formation off to the left-hand side? We're like, whoa, we only saw it once.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Last game, we saw it with Sam Howell. Sam Howell had
that's the problem.
Guys in the backfield with him.
No. I'm not talking when they had the guys surrounding him. I'm talking the wide receiver sets where we had like a diamond formation out there.
Yeah.
And so we've seen it. We see some of the play design that he has. A lot of people like to knock Scott Turner for his game flow. And I think
that's my biggest problem.
So I have a problem with that because yes, I do agree to a certain extent. Sometimes he just doesn't like he's just picking the plays that he kind of outsmarting himself, right? Like a jet sweep on 3rd and 1 or a toss play on 3rd and 2 or something like that. But the one aspect I think that I feel like he does have good or shows that he has good game flow is how many times did we have 10 plus play drives, right? That's what this offense became known for. And you can't have I get that, Trev. I get that with the QB play, with everything going on, that is what you're kind of you're held to. But he still got that offense to do, like Carson Wentz had 21 play drive.
Yeah.
The game against Tampa Bay, the whole joke was, still driving because they had 4 or 5. I think they had 4 drives of 10 minutes or more. It was just ridiculous. They just kept the ball.
Yeah.
And that's what Scott Turner, and that's why I feel like the game flow aspect is overblown because he is not a great play caller. I will fully agree with that.
Right.
Because he does call these like tosses on 3rd and 2, and he does these he tries to outsmart himself when he gets into the red zone. I think part of that is because of the limitation with the offensive line and his QB. He's trying to think of what creative ways, especially as he sees them fail over and over and over and over again, what creative ways can he get there? And just none of it was working for him.
I think the main reason why he lost his job was the lack of points in the red zone.
That's a huge part.
I don't think anybody really cares how you got down there, but until you don't finish the job of being in the end zone. We can say he was creative and he ran a screen to get us to the 30, and then it's a 19 play drive to get us down there. But like, there's been plenty of times where we were more than capable of getting down the red zone, no matter who was under center, Taylor, Sam, or Carson, and we can't score points. And I think that is the main reason why he lost his job. Now, if he goes somewhere else, is it going to be the same thing? We don't know. Maybe it's the players can score down there. Maybe our players couldn't execute his play calls. We don't know, but there were a lot of times we were there in the red zone, and his play calling was atrocious, and we came away with no point or 3 points. And I think that's the main reason why he lost his job, is because they were like, cool, you can get down the field. Hell, I can play quarterback and hand off to B-Rob and we can get down the field. That's fine. But when it's time to, the red zone and you don't produce for 3 years, our points are declining because you don't score points for getting to the red zone. You score points for being in the end zone. And I think that's how he lost his job.
But I still think Ron should have been before him. Now, I get there's this whole there's this whole pending sale. Nobody really knows how that affects it, but I think it does affect it. It just has to. It just has to affect it. But I don't think – I will say this. I would say there's about a 30% chance that Ron Rivera is not coaching this team next year.
30?
I would put it at about 30%.
Yeah.
Because if this new owner does come in at some point before the draft, okay, the draft is in May.
Draft is late April. March is when the owners meet. That's when they can approve like a team sale and something like that. That's why a lot of people are saying Ron Rivera is going to be here, because by the time that's approved in late March, there's not enough time to fire, hire, and especially if you think about it, Stoner, who is around and available to coach come late March?
Let me tell you,
your options are limited.
No, let me tell you who. I'll give you Stoner. I'll give you 10 million reasons why there are guys available. Okay. So Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Jim Harbaugh, give me a bunch of these college coaches that if some owner comes in here, there's no way an owner is going to come in here and sit through a lame duck Ron Rivera year.
He might.
There's no way. He's going to just sit there.
See how things are ran.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. If he comes in, I'm saying before the draft.
He drafts a quarterback? He drafts a quarterback if he comes in?
No, he comes in and he goes out and he gets a college coach. Okay. And you throw $10 million. You throw a 10-year, $100 million deal at Kirby Smart. Okay, he's coming. All right, and that owner is going.
If they do that, you throw it at Lincoln Riley, and you hope to suck it up 1 year and then get Caleb Williams in 2024.
Something like that. Whatever. But a new owner.
Then keep Ron. So then why waste that? Why put Lincoln through that? You just keep Ron, then go get your boy Lincoln and Caleb at the same time.
What I'm saying is a new owner, when you buy this whole new toy, you're just not going to sit there and not play with it for a year and suffer. He's not going to do it. There's no way.
Why can't we use the same method when you say we go get a bridge quarterback and then go get your guy? Well, the owner, same thing. Use Ron as your bridge coach, then go get your guy. Why can't we do that?
I just think, and I have no idea, this is totally opinion. I don't have some sort of inside info, but I just don't think if somebody's going to go out and pay $7 billion for a franchise, that they're just going to sit on it for a year and see what happens. That's not why you do this. You get into it so that you can control it, and have your toy and play with it and go out and get yourself the shiny new coach and front office and quarterback or whatever.
What if the new ownership comes in and starts building pieces of the staff? Like, what if the new ownership comes in and hires an offensive coordinator, but keeps Ron on as the head guy, but he comes in and builds with different pieces? Could that work?
I mean, he might.
But your head coach?
I just don't see it. It's just kind of like when a head coach comes in, he's not going to retain the staff that was there before. He's going to bring in all his guys that he's comfortable working with, and he's not going to sit there and evaluate them for an entire season.
So
if it's for a month.
So you've got Ron for a whole year.
So that's That's just kind of my 30% chance that something like that is going to happen.
All right, well then back to your original thing. So if Ron would have gotten canned with Scott Turner,
Yeah,
with the new ownership going on, then who hires a new coach?
that's why I think he's here. That's the only reason I think
it's
he's
also
here.
still, even though we have 2 GMs, it's still a Ron-led team, right?
Yeah, because
So
he brought
the
them.
owner has to come in and fire. And this is kind of one of the things that I've seen talked about when it comes to a little bit of a surprise that Scott Turner's gone, is that, is there money to do that? And I believe Scott Turner's contract isn't guaranteed, which
That's right.
made this reasonable. But Ron Rivera's, that I believe is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if you fire Ron Rivera, if Dan Snyder fires Ron Rivera, he's paying that bill. And that's so he hires somebody else, like you said, Trev. Now all of a sudden you're going to get a new owner in March, April timeframe. Are they going to stick with the coach you hired 2 months ago? What? And so this is one of those. That's why I would go much less than 33% there.
He's going to
but
be
Ron is currently on this coaching staff. Scott Turner is not. Let's get back to the offensive coordinator side of this.
Right.
And Gus Bus has this comment to say here. Isn't it a negative, though, that now we're not providing continuity to Hal, who will have to learn a new system in a second year? This is something I brought up when it came to the question on Day After Reckoning. Is Sam Howell going to be your QB1 going into next year? And what does Scott Turner being fired do to that? Like now he's going to have a second, offense that he's going to have to learn. If, like we're saying, Trev, Ron Rivera gets fired, whole new staff, that's going to be the third offense that he's going to have to learn in his third season. Let's not make this about how as much, but as far as QB development, if Ron goes out and gets another QB this year, what does that do for the QBs on this roster? Currently, really only Sam Howell, Trev.
Opens up more for him. Yeah, he learned a lot from Scott Turner, but he got one game to really use what he learned. Yeah, you use it in practice, but you're going to get the same guys every day. So it's like, whatever. So I think fresh mind come in, can probably cater to him, not necessarily have a coach who is more concerned with Taylor and Carson's development rather than your development, because your practice squad, your 5th round pick, here's what we're doing in practice, but you don't really have to, I'm not really honing in to make sure you know it. I'm really focusing on Wentz and Heineke right now. So then he just was dealt with the hand. Carson played like poop. Heineke did what he did. We're going to give the last kid a shot. We're going to have the playoffs. Now that's when he put his whole focus, that week and a half or whatever, into Sam Howell. So I think a new will be just fine. It's not like he was focused on Sam Howell week 6 and making him quarterback 2 all week, like the rest of the season, in case he had to come in and be QB1. He was always on practice squad on the bench. Yeah, he dressed out, but come on. So I think fresh mind, he'll be fine.
I think that's overrated. Offenses are. Baker Mayfield literally came off a bus and a day and a half later was playing
and won
and playing fairly well.
Yeah.
Okay. Competently. He wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. Okay. And he didn't know that offense, obviously. I think that stuff's a little bit overrated unless you are a certain type of quarterback and you have to learn a whole different way to be a quarterback. If you bring in a Lamar Jackson and he has to become a pocket passer, which he's not, and he has to learn how to do that. That's where I think it gets tough for these guys. But a guy like Sam Howell, who played for 4 years at North Carolina, he played a long time. He was a starter for a long time. And guys like that who are lifers, they know how to pick up offenses. Okay, it's not a guy who's been playing quarterback for a couple of years and sat for a couple of years and wasn't the guy, and then all of a sudden he's got a whole new offense. That's where I think you may struggle. But I think that whole learn a new offense thing is a little bit overrated. They're all pretty much the same plays.
Different words.
Terminology.
Yeah, literally.
Which can be a bit much when you're going to like a Gruden-led offense where they have all these extra litters and stuff like that. So I won't downplay it as much as you, Stoner. I do see where you're coming from. That I'm a little disappointed you had to go the far-reaching Lamar side of things when you literally have Carson Wentz as an example right here in DC. When you're like, yeah, we're gonna and this game against the Browns, we're gonna make him dink and dunk when this guy is literally meant to throw the ball downfield.
See, that's where the miscommunication I think comes from between Ron and Scott Turner. I really
So he brought in a big arm.
Yep, Ron knew. Yes, Ron wanted this game plan. And
Scott asked him to dink and dunk.
Or Ron was like, dink and dunk, get him acclimated. He's missed 8 weeks with a broken finger on his throwing hand. Dink and dunk him, take a shot every now and then. Scott was like, yeah, I'll say that to the press. But Carson, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bomb it all game, dog. Showcase that arm. We got to win. We would spark. So, I mean, seriously.
Yeah. And plus, when you saw Sam Howell come out there, and he even said he hadn't thrown to Terry and Jahan ever, right? Which I get, which I didn't really have a problem with. Everybody seemed to kind of run with that, but there are limited. The NFLPA limits the amount of time that you can be out on a practice field. Okay, so you have to use that time with your starters. You can't have the third stringer running plays during the week.
Stoner,
you only have so many hours.
Stoner.
Stoner.
Carson Wentz was on IR. That wasn't your third string QB at some point during the season. He was QB2.
Yeah.
And he's still like QB2, did not throw to Terry or Jahan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
that's why I was just like, wait, this is the first time all season. He didn't get, even as QB2. How are you preparing him?
That's what I'm saying. That takes me back to my comment. Scott's only focusing on Wentz and Heineke, not Sam Howell, because he was like, oh, he'll never play.
Well, you only have so many hours in a day because you're limited.
I get it.
You can't go out there and practice for 8 hours like you.
Yeah, but Carson, he's not even dressing out.
Get him a couple passes.
That's what I'm saying.
See them lining up routes all the time, Stoner, where they have they just like there's a QB. You know, the two QBs are up in the middle and they got wide receivers on either side. You're telling me not even during any of those drills that they were like, hey, Terry, I want you to go over on his side.
They brought in Jake Fromm. They brought in Jake Fromm to do that, right? When Carson went down, they had to bring a third quarterback.
Let me just say this also.
Wow, I didn't think about that,
Okay.
Nathan. Wow.
We went to training camp, okay, for a day. I saw Sam Howell throw passes to Terry McLaurin. Okay.
That's training camp.
Right.
They have to.
Okay. So get away from he's never thrown a ball
to
Terry McLaurin. I saw him throwing it to Terry McLaurin. I saw him throwing to Dotson. Yeah. Okay. Because I remember mentioning it in one of our shows. I said he's got a live arm.
Yeah.
He was thrown to McLaurin. Yeah. Okay. So that whole narrative gets
but that was how many months ago, bro? Timing goes away.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. It kind of got away from the point. The whole point was he came in when he knew he was starting 3 days beforehand, and he looked competent throwing to Terry McLaurin and Dotson and guys who he hadn't practiced with.
That's QB1.
So
it did look.
I'm not worried about him kind of learning an offense over an entire off season, learning a new offense.
He will have time. Yeah, he will have time.
QB1.
And speaking of these offensive coordinators and these offenses, are there any names out there right now that you are interested in hearing? There's a lot of, it's never going to happen, but Gruden, former head coach here, is being brought up. Is there any names that you guys like? I can give you a few options if you want.
All right.
I've got a couple of names, but Eric Bieniemy, because that's floating around.
He ain't making a lateral move.
Nathan said he didn't say who's coming here. He said, who do we like that would we like to come here? And he even said it's not realistic.
Okay,
it's not realistic, but that would be great. I mean, the rumors out there, so I'm addressing that'd be great. D'Amico Ryans, I would love him for defense coordinator, but he probably will stay put until another opportunity next year.
He's going to get a head coaching
job somewhere else other than the ones that are open now. I see Frank Wright floating out there. Don't want him. You had 2 times with Carson Wentz and you failed in both, so I don't want whatever. So other than outside of that, I don't have anybody else. I don't know anybody else who's available who could even come. Shane
Waldron. Do you want names, or you got a couple on hand?
Ken Dorsey. Come on.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get all those names, but none of them are making a lateral move to Washington. Okay, it's gonna be a QB coach, or it's gonna be a guy who's fired, like the Frank Reich type, or it's gonna be a tight ends coach, something like that. It's not gonna be.
What about Shula? Shula's another name that keeps getting tossed around. The ties to he's part of the Buffalo Bills right now. He's got ties to Ron Rivera.
Is he like 80? How old is this Shula dude?
Not Don, Mike.
I know, but he was like head coach of Alabama in like the 80s or something.
Let me look it up real quick.
He is old. But here's my point. Here's my point. You can hire Poopy McPooperson.
57, by the way.
I don't care who they hire. I'm not going to sit here and say that so-and-so, Mike LaFleur, for example.
Oh, yeah. He just got fired today.
I'm not going to say this guy is going to be good or this guy. Who knows if any of these guys are going to be good as offensive coordinators for Washington. Just get somebody who can come in and average more than 20 points a game.
Nate Stoner, you said Poopy McPooperson, so that's pretty much the equivalent of Patriots. You got Joe Judge and Mike Patricia calling plays up there. That was pretty poopy. That's what you want?
Right.
That's what you want?
I'm saying I don't care.
Brian Schottenheimer, that Brian will give you a 2-to-1 run to pass ratio.
I don't care who it is.
No, I kind of care who it is, bro, because our offense is predictable.
Can you tell me the difference between Frank Reich and Mike Shula as offensive coordinator?
I don't want them. I want Young.
I'm just asking you.
Oh, yeah, there is no difference probably.
Well, I'm saying we don't know. We have no idea of any of these guys, any of these names, the Shulas, the Mike LaFleurs, the Frank Reichs, the Brian Schottenheimers, any of these names. We, and I say we, I'm talking about these three yahoos right here, have no idea if any of those guys are going to be any good as offensive coordinators. That's why I'm saying I don't care who it is as long as they do a good job.
All right. Nathan, I know they put it out there saying they're going to hire outside the organization, but now they're going to interview Zampese with the knowledge of them looking to hire outside. What's better? Hiring Zampese, who's worked with Sam Howell pretty much all season at some capacity, or you go out and get somebody else? What do you like? Hiring within or hiring somebody else?
Who's it better for? I mean, it's better for Sam Howell of Zampese.
Well, actually for Ron. For Ron, because Ron's probably going to be coach.
To save his job? I don't know if there's anything that's going to save his job long term. But for the team, I think hiring outside is probably better. I think that if they really thought Zampese was the answer, you make the move in season after your team continuously fails to get to 20 points,
or you make the move today,
or you make the move. Yeah,
as soon as you fire him,
they are hiring him. Or they're not hiring him. Sorry, they're interviewing him to kind of back away from we're looking outside. And being like, because that would make me upset if I'm your employee and I'm looking maybe to progress going up, and you outwardly tell everybody, yeah, we're going outside. I'm going to be like, well, why do I even need to be here?
Yeah.
And so that's probably to save face. Hey, we're going to give you an opportunity, and then they're going to look at some other people, and maybe there's not a name that you have for it, but maybe there's a mentality that we as fans can look for. And I think a lot of people don't want these Reichs or these Shulas because we're not looking for an old guy. We are looking for somebody from the Shanahan tree, from the Reed tree. Yeah, we're looking for somebody who has some successful, McVay, all these, pull somebody from a successful offense and young who can come here and instill something great. The problem I think that goes with that is if you're going to go with a younger offensive coordinator and that younger mindset, that's not a 2-to-1 rush to passing ratio.
Unless he's creative way of doing it.
Perhaps, but I don't think that mentality is what they're attracted to. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it. And who they end up with, because I don't think somebody like Cliff Kingsbury is going to come here as the offensive coordinator when that is more of a spread them out offense. They're looking for somebody who's going to be like, hey, we're going to use Brian Robinson and he's going to go left and he's going to go right and then he's going to go left again. And then we might pass the ball.
Yeah.
They're not going to get somebody who is, one of these or even a Hackett.
And that's where I have a problem with them saying we want to be a 2-1 football. It's like, cool, but like maybe you interview an offensive coordinator that has an idea that could fit your team better than what you think because they're actually on the sideline coaching before. They've actually experienced it. You're just watching up in the box and reading stats. That's where I have the issue by right now. As soon as before we even talk about mock drafts, you're like, we're a 2-1 football team. It's like, okay, so what if these offensive coordinators are looking for that have that, do that, but are not successful at doing it? Now you're screwed because you're bringing somebody in here who can do it.
That's correct.
And may not have success. You put your limit on your team already before you even make any other move. Before you even hired the OC, you said what kind of football team you are as a GM. Not even Ron Rivera said that. So now
you're putting out the bat signal.
Yes.
You're saying this is what we do. So if you are an offensive coordinator
and you're
want
good
to
at
be
this,
one, and this is what you do, then we'll
come
talk.
here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we just missed out on Cliff Kingsbury, and who's taken, I don't know, let's just say, since Kellen Moore leaves the Cowboys as head coach, and then Cliff goes to Dallas, and Dallas is now in the play like 15-0 or in the playoffs because they were open-minded about their coaching coordinator search.
Right.
And they found somebody that fits their team rather than saying, we're a power eye offense. We want this coach and this player and that player. I have a problem with it. And we're already putting ourselves in a pickle when we don't even know who the owner is. And you're already saying what kind of football team you want to be. Huge problem.
Yeah. Well, the ownership thing is just a huge monkey wrench into the whole coaching offseason.
Which I'm kind of surprised they went ahead and fired Scott Turner before, because I was under the assumption, also because of hearsay, that no moves are going to be made like that until a word on the sale was going to come down.
Yeah.
And then
I think you have to continue going as if that sale doesn't exist. Yeah. It's not going to happen that way because you're not going to necessarily attract talent. That's where the offensive coordinator, like you said, it's going to be one of those things. Who's going to come here and potentially not have a job? But here's the thing: they could have a job if you get one of these younger guys and this offense is clicking, but maybe the defense just completely collapses because Daron Payne is holding out or signed elsewhere,
right?
So you're losing games 35-31. Ron Rivera gets fired mid-season and we're like, okay, what do you got here, young buck? You're going to be our interim head coach and see if you can't pull it out of your hat here for us. You never know what's going to go on, and it's going to be a very long off season for that reason. But we're going to have those conversations later and what we're going to get and what we can expect. I don't have any great names for you. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up in that spot. We can probably line up some more content as far as offensive coordinators in the future. Lord knows we got enough to talk about. And one of the things we did want to talk about today, that was our season awards. Let us know in the comment section who your MVP was, your least valuable player was. Tell us who, what was your most disappointing thing and your most surprising thing? All that stuff is what we're going to be talking about right here once we get to the cool down.
The cool down is brought to you by Manscaped. Ever since my Nathan started using their products, I can't cool down. Fellas, trust me. Go to Manscaped right now and get 20% off and free shipping by using the code REF. Your ladies will appreciate you. Now back to Trev, Stoner, and my Manscaped man, Nathan.
Thanks for joining us here on the Cool Down as we talk about our season awards. But before we get to that, I saw this comment pop up and I just have to address it. Normally I do something more on the manscaped.com thing, and we will get to that. But see no one, I like you. Thanks for joining the channel. I love seeing your name on there, and you got some good comments normally. This one ain't it though.
How do we know that?
This one I cannot let slide. Mathis could be just as good as Payne, is what see no one commented. That one might be a bit of a hope and a prayer.
How do we know that?
I'm not saying he can't be. I'm saying do not set yourself up for disappointment when the second round player who's going to be coming off of an injury does not play like Daron Payne, a guy who is the first person in how many years that got double-digit sacks for this team.
And from a tackle position.
Just making sure we understand not to set it up for disappointment.
He did go to
That's
Bama.
all I want.
That's all I'm saying.
I like Mathis more than Stoner does.
Yeah.
I don't. Don't say that. It's not that I don't like him. It's just it was a terrible pick in the second round. You don't pick a rotational guy in the second round. That's the problem I had. And especially then the whole comment was, well, he's going to replace Payne because they're not going to re-sign Payne. And then now everybody wants to re-sign Payne. Well, then you just wasted a second rounder. Absolutely wasted it.
No, you have depth, bro. Look at our team.
Not from a second round. You don't draft depth in the second round.
Are you sure?
You draft day one starters.
When you play three defensive tackles all the time, yes, you need to have a second round talent.
Went out and took a guy off a scrap heap, and he became one of your better defensive tackles.
That's because our second rounder got hurt. It would be a different narrative if he was healthy. So I don't even know why we're having this conversation. He was hurt. Yeah. It's not like he sucked all year and got benched.
See, no one got me going on that one. I happen to just see it in the comment section. I do appreciate everyone in the comment section. Make sure if you're here that you've hit that like button on our YouTube channel. Let's see what those numbers are at. But we love having you here. And let's get to these season awards. MVP for you, Trev.
Oh man, this was tough.
It's a tough one, man.
It's really tough to single out a player because of the kind of season we had. It was more of a team effort this season, but if I had to go most valuable player, Jonathan Allen. I mean, he is. Yeah, we beat Dallas without him, but that was one game. You see what the defensive line looks like when we have to depend on Daron Payne by himself, and that's why I want to get to Daron Payne another time because I'm not as high on him as everybody else is, but we'll get to that later. But Jonathan Allen, captain of the team, answers the bell for everybody. He was on every tackle. I mean, at every stream, what would we say? And who's there on the tackle? Jonathan Allen. Or who made a tackle? Who's in the backfield? Didn't get the sack, but who was back there? Jonathan Allen. Without him, our D-line would be crap. I mean, yeah, we made a coaching change. I think that was Jonathan Allen to do with that too, honestly. So that tells you what kind of man he is in the locker room. He's the pistol starter for the defense. I mean, once the D-line gets to the quarterback, our secondary can flourish. A la Kendall Fuller. We made Derek Forrest, talking about Pro Bowl beginning of the year because of how good he was playing. So, yeah, Jonathan Allen, MVP. That's fine, hands down.
Stoner, are you going to go elsewhere with your vote?
Yeah, man, it's a tough one. We all want to say Terry McLaurin, right? But, offensively, this team wasn't very good. So, value-wise, he didn't provide the value that you need offensively. And it's not entirely his fault. I'm just saying for value. And I was probably going to go with Jonathan Allen. He's the captain. He's a Pro Bowler on a top 5 defense, right? But I think probably the most valuable player on this team is Cameron Curl. And if you look at the first 2 games that he missed, which was Jacksonville and Detroit, and how many points and yards they gave up in those 2 games, and then the last couple of games that he missed, and how many points and yards that they gave up, right, is when he was not in there. But when he was in there, this defense was a top 2 defense in the NFL. So that, to me, is what value is for a player. And it's hard to pinpoint. It's not like all the the safeties are getting beat deep because McCain was pretty good this year.
Yeah,
Debo was pretty good this year. When Reeves and Butler were out there, they were making plays, right? But just look at the stats. And when Cam Curl is not there, their defense is nothing compared to what the defense is when Cam Curl is in there. So my MVP is Cam Curl.
Yeah, Stoner here is going to be going with my usual definition of MVP, which is the literal definition of most valuable player. Now,
Yes,
I'm fairly certain the last time we tried this and I gave that argument, Stoner railed me for it. I'm fairly certain he was just like, that's not what MVP is. It's your best player. I don't care if you think what it is. So it's interesting that he's now taking my argument on here, but Gus Bus is calling him out as well. How can Curl be an MVP when he had 0 interceptions, 0 forced fumbles, 0 pass breakups all year long? He's good, but not crucial. I think he went a little too far on that last line, Gus Bus, because Stoner did say just how critical he is for this defense. They gave up, I think it was 91 points in 3 games that he did not play. And then he kept missing games. And he is such a crucial part to this defense. So I understand where that value is coming from and where Stoner's going with that. But as far as a true MVP who brings that value and who is literally just the best player on the field when they're on the field, and that's Jonathan Allen. And we talked a lot about this with Jonathan Allen, not just making the Pro Bowl, but he should be getting some looks at All-Pro. I don't think he's going to get it. He plays here in Washington.
I think he came out today and he didn't.
And
he didn't get it.
He didn't get it. Yeah, and he probably didn't even get the looks because he plays in Washington, and this team just wasn't good enough to really have any All-Pros. But he was, for the most part, playing at All-Pro level. This guy was getting triple teamed on the regular because he was just that disruptive. Deron Payne is having a career year because of the focus that Jonathan Allen is taking from the offensive line. So that's why I would say Jonathan Allen's my most valuable player. You hit on why Terry can't be. I mean, if Terry had 1 or 2 games where he absolutely took over and just dominated, then I would give him more of a serious look. You all know I love Terry, but he just doesn't. I don't think in his entire career, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever really taken over a game.
Who? No.
I mean, his very first game against Philly, didn't he dominate that particular game?
He had the touchdown on his first catch, but
I feel like
I'm talking like a near 200-yard game where he's literally like breaking tackles and or blowing by people. And I don't know that Terry's had one of those games, which is what keeps him away from a lot of people's top 10 wide receiver lists. He is a good wide receiver. He's a great wide receiver. He has been let down by some QB play, but he's also not, when you're talking like the tier list, he's not a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase who can take over games. And so it's just, I want to see that from him before I can crown him as an MVP. Plus I need my offense to score more than 20 points a game.
That's right.
So that's
why I can't.
Yeah. So Jonathan Allen, let's go into least valuable player.
All right. For me, this was a joint for me. And it's the lack of health / continuity on offensive line. Let's call it what you want. Taylor was a bad quarterback, but half of it was the offensive line. Carson Wentz is a bad quarterback, but some of it was due to the offensive line. The run game couldn't get going sometimes because of offensive line. We had to shuffle Schweitzer to guard, to tackle, to center, to guard, to tackle. We had Chase Roulier, who missed the season last year's season and came back. Same thing happened again. His backup did last year. Same thing happened in this year. So, like, outside of Charles Leno, I can't ever say his name right. He was the most continuous of all because he never missed a game. I'm not saying he played all that great. He did, but he was the most gelled one that we had. Outside of him, it was a shuffle. And Cornelius Lucas, too, for the most part, kind of. But you got Cosme as a right tackle, then he's a guard. Schweitzer, Wes Martin, practice squad, this guy, Nick Martin for a sub center. And then, it's just that was, I think, the least valuable players or whatever the team because we couldn't score points and they're on the opposite side of the ball and they're
definitely a huge contribution to our lack thereof passing game and run game. So offensive line as a whole continuity.
Got the whole unit on
yeah.
there.
Sorry.
Stoner, can you pick one person, or are you going to stick with Trev's unit?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one, and I wanted to go with either Trey Turner or Andrew Norwell, but I'm going to give you a name that you all are going to go, oh yeah, and his name is William Jackson III. Okay, that is the least valuable player this team had this year, because when he was in there, this defense was terrible. The pass defense.
Yeah.
The secondary was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And when he left, they were not terrible. And that to me is the definition of a least valuable player, especially for the amount of money that he made.
Yeah.
The amount of money that
he was so not valuable that they traded him away.
And he still didn't play in Pittsburgh.
And he still didn't play in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so he's my LVP.
That's fair enough. And I do agree with Van Guardian TV. He was a bad fit here. Eric, he didn't get better after. He literally got put on IR after he went to the Steelers.
No, I think he's saying we got better after trading him.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got better. Yeah, that's true, Eric. We did get better after trading him. That's fair. So least valuable player, I mean, the most important position on the team, you trade 2 third-round picks for him. You're paying him $28 million, and he wins 2 games. Yes, he was injured and missed out on 8 games this season, but that meant that he still played enough to get some wins, and he didn't do it. Carson Wentz is the least valuable player on this team. They win games without him. They had the big playoff push without him. They stumbled down the stretch. They put him in against the Browns in hopes that he can create a spark, and it does the opposite. Carson Wentz is the least valuable player. I understand when you go William Jackson. I understand when you go the offensive line, any which way you want to pick those. I mean, you can throw Dax Milne's name out there as, the special teams unit was pretty solid. Tressway was getting some MVP votes in our
He
chat.
had the same stats as Carson Wentz prior to the Cleveland Browns game, pretty much, and he missed 8 games.
Oh, you're talking Taylor Heineke?
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you say he was hurt for half the year? So of course he's the least valuable player because he's hurt.
Yeah. So availability is the best ability, right? Isn't that something? Isn't that a saying? Plus, again, when he played, the guy was 2-7. Trev, he won 2 games, and no, he was 2-5. It was 2-6. Got injured, and then he came back and lost against the Browns.
He was 2-4 when he got injured.
2-4. Okay, so he's 2-5.
He started. He was quarterback when we started that win streak. Y'all keep forgetting that, but he was in there
against. Yeah, you're right. That was one of his 2 wins. Was against the Browns,
the Bears,
or Bears. Sorry, got this Browns game.
I mean, I know I said it for O-line too, but they weren't like. That's
Carson Wentz. I had low expectations.
I know.
Going into this season. I never wanted him here in the first place at all. I was at least excited. I said, if it works out, like if we see some of this, this is great. This is an offense that could at least be maybe top 15. I still felt the defense was going to be top 10, and I was like, we can potentially win 9 to 10 games, maybe get to that mythical 11 that we haven't seen since we've won a Super Bowl. It just never came to fruition. A lot of that goes on the quarterback. And whatever you want to do, you can blame all sorts of other people. But when we're talking least valuable player, I'm sorry, it's going to go to Carson Wentz. So, all right. What was your most surprising moment or thing this year? Could be anything.
Honestly, beating the Philadelphia Eagles in their place when they were undefeated. That was not expected. It was us against the world. We had Taylor Heineke in there. We were all ready for the Carson Wentz revenge game when the schedule came out. We were so hyped. And we were like, oh, he's not playing. And we're 2-4 at that time or whatever we were. I don't know what our record was. 6-5, 5-5, 4-5, something like that. I don't know. When we beat Philly in Philly on Monday Night Football,
mm-hmm.
The last time we played them, we got embarrassed, I believe, by Michael Vick on Monday Night Football.
Hmm.
They're undefeated this year. That was the best one of the best moments ever.
I'm
Why?
pretty sure two of us picked Washington to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, because we were homers, but like
Yeah, we called it early in the game after we had lost.
Yeah.
We were like, no, we're going to beat the Eagles next week.
Nathan
because
called
we
it the hours after we lost the week before.
And
Nathan said we're beating the Eagles.
like Stoner
And
said,
I said, that's Nathan saying that, not this guy. But he was right. He
and to
nailed that one.
piggyback, Stoner said, yeah, we made them wake up and go add to their team to help stop the run, which is what beat them. Eagles win for me is the most surprising moment of the season.
How about you, Stoner? Most surprising moment of the season?
Maybe two, if I may. So real quickly,
Sure.
it wasn't a moment. Oh, okay, so I'll do the whole. It's not the Brian Robinson situation where he was shot in preseason and only missed 4 games and came back and was super valuable to this team. So it's not that one. But Jeremy Reeves going from barely making the team and grateful that he just made the team to not only a Pro Bowler, but an All-Pro.
Yep.
And the difference, of course, being Pro Bowl is you're selected as the best in your conference. All-Pro being you're the best in the NFL. He was named the best special teams player in the entire NFL. And he went from 5 years of going back and forth, practice squad, back and forth, getting cut year after year after year. He finally makes the team, and that's what he rewarded the team with, is being the best special teams player in the NFL. So that was the best moment for me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're all very much Jeremy Reeves fans here on the channel. We've interviewed someone from the same school as him. Shout out Kalu on that one, but that's a good one. I see Sam Howell in the chat. I see biggest surprise not tanking after 1-4. I mean, we all thought, we were going to be going in evaluation. We had a murderous row in that middle of the season where we're just like, this is just going to get worse. This is going to be a 1-18. And they were able to do that. HT in the house. How about most surprising is the second loss to the New York Giants off the bye at home. Important win and moment. And they just,
that was very disappointing.
Very, very, very disappointing on that one. But I think definitely I'm going to agree with Tommy T and some of these other ones here. Eric in this one. The most surprising moment of the season did not happen on the field. It was the news that Dan Snyder is selling. Whether or not it's we haven't found out yet. It hasn't been solidified whether or not it's a portion of the team or all of the team. Everything's pointing to that it's going to be the whole shebang. But that had to be the most surprising moment. That is a moment we've been waiting for decades. And here we finally hear it within this season, after the name change, after all this, there's a lot going on. And all of a sudden, hey, we're hearing about Bank of America. We're hearing that the whole thing's going to go up. Most surprising moment had to be Dan Snyder selling the team. All right. What was the most disappointing? We had a couple good ones already listed in there. What's yours most disappointing, Trev?
Being 7-5 and missing the playoffs, and all you had to do was win 2 games.
Driver's seat. Not only the driver's seat, Trev, but literally those first 2 games that we tie and then lose, everything went our way. I thought after that, after we were being gifted, we had a tie, everybody lost, and we were still in that 7th seed. We lose, everybody loses, and we're still in the 7th seed. I was just like, we are destined to make the playoffs because everything just kept falling our way. I was just like, we're going to turn this around. We just need to win a game, and we couldn't put it together.
Yeah,
I agree. It's very
so. Before we even get to the playoff scenario, and I know it might not be popular, but for real, I was disappointed. We actually go, for what it's worth, we trade away those picks. We paid $28 million. We go get a well-known name veteran quarterback who has shown potential that he can be a starter still. He had a rough deal in Indianapolis. And then to see him have a rough start, and then get injured. And now we're back in quarterback controversy again after we thought we had at least this year figured out with Carson Wentz coming in to be our starter. And if he played well, sign him to extension and he'd be here for another 2 or 3 years. But to have to see him get hurt and we go back to Taylor Heineke and he wins and it's another quarterback controversy was so disappointing because, yeah, like I said, Carson Wentz, whatever opinion of him is, you have him, but he was supposed to be the guy. We found a guy that had NFL experience, not off the couch, not 10 years ago, within 5 years, still young, shown that he can be capable, and we end up right back in square one with quarterback controversy. That was super disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And TJ, too nasty for you agreeing. Most disappointing, still not having a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, that's like...
How about you, Stoner?
Yeah, so the one I didn't select, a little bit controversial, I think, is it took so long for Chase Young to come back, and when he came back, he was about as good as I would have been out there. Okay, so
the game against San Francisco, he was good. That game, he actually had an impact, and then he
stop making excuses for the guy.
We're not. He had an impact. They only scored 24 points. They kept us in the game.
Not because of Chase Young.
Chase Young had a pass batted down at the line. He was now Stoner. Don't
look at the injury,
don't get me
bro.
wrong. Don't get me wrong here.
Okay.
Chase Young as your generational talent, as your defensive end, your pass rusher,
second
overall. I agree that he needs to get after the quarterback. It's not enough for him to run and defend the run. It's not enough for him to just bat down passes and everything like that. I agree with you, Stoner, but let's not pretend that he wasn't good in that San Francisco game. I didn't say he was great. I didn't say he was exceptional, but you're acting like you literally just said that you would have been a surefire replacement for him.
Yeah. Hell
Let's be
no.
realistic here. He was above average.
I got some quick hands, man. I can get those old linemen off me. Get off me. I can get to the quarterback.
He was an above average defensive end. He wasn't a generational talent defensive end.
Yeah.
And yes, he's coming off the injury and all that kind of stuff.
All right, I'll give you that.
It took
I'll give you
till
that.
3 games left in the season for him
Can
to
we
come
cut the man a little bit of slack?
No. I'm just
He
saying
he had a phenomenal rookie year.
He had a really good rookie year.
He had a basic half of a second year.
He had a below average second year.
He was but then his knee injury was super serious.
Okay,
you guys,
that's disappointing.
It is disappointing, but we can't sit there and judge that on how a certain person recovers from an injury. Not everybody is Adrian Peterson.
Yes,
not
correct.
everybody is Matt Castle after he tore his ACL. Not everybody's Tom Brady when he went down a knee. Everybody recovers differently.
That's right.
So I think it's just kind of unfair to expect somebody with a blown out knee at 22 years old, third year in the league, to come right back on the field after missing 45 million games and practices and be a generational talent as soon as he gets back. Okay, that's really not fair to say.
All right. I didn't say that he was bad this year.
Disappointing.
I said I was disappointed.
You literally
in the
said
injury
that you could play
recovery.
as well as he played out there.
You did say that.
You said
you know what I'm saying. Okay, that's simply for
give him a little bit.
Yeah,
that's for yucks.
I
Okay.
can see if he was
I'm with you, Trev.
You know, Nathan, like if he was performing, he was like at the beginning of last year, didn't get injured and just did not produce. Now we can say I'm gonna need to talk about Chase Young's pass rushing ability. Like now that'd be justified. But the man had one leg all year. And now he comes back and we're like, oh, he didn't do anything in a San Fran game. What was he supposed to do? What he supposed to do?
Trev, I think where some of the frustration comes from when it comes to Chase Young and the disappointment there, again, him not really having an impact this season, is This is his third season. His second season, even before the injury, was disappointing,
rocky.
right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a good season for your second overall pick coming off of a defensive rookie of the year campaign. And for him to miss most of his third season, it goes into what Gus Bus is asking here is, do you give him a 5th-year option? And that's not going to be a topic you're going to have to.
Yes.
But we'll go into that topic later. I don't want to, we're already at 144 right now. So we definitely.
Sorry, but that's not my.
You won the over too, by the way. You won the over.
Yeah. So, we already smashed. So I'm not trying to get into that conversation right now. But what I'm saying is I understand where Stoner's coming from and the people who list him as the most disappointing aspect to this. But the one that I'm going to hit is, by the way, Jack. Jack says here for our audio listeners, I'm starting to get scared that Chase is going to be Javadian Clowney 2.0. I've said this on the channel several times. He is. That's what we're looking at.
Hey, Trev. Nathan just said we're not going to get into any more of this.
And then I talked about it.
Stuff.
I saw the comment while I was looking for the comment I was looking for as we're talking about most disappointing.
Let me show you this comment that backs up my
most disappointing thing is the slow start to the season.
I'm on to you, Nick.
That's yours? Slow start?
I didn't even get to mine yet. That was my not most.
Oh, yeah.
But go ahead. No, do your slow start.
Slow start to the season. It's this schedule was set up for Washington to be successful early on, and they did not put it together. No. Then Carson Wentz gets injured. Yes, he wins that first game in the win streak, and we get the Ron Rivera special, which gave us all hope that we were going to make the playoffs, get to 7-5 in the driver's seat, just need to win 2 of the last games, and the end of the season happens. But if you are better in the beginning of the year,
you're right.
Then a little bit of a letdown at the end of the season doesn't matter. I get, you can, if you want to go towards your disappointment as the tie against the Giants and then the loss against the Giants right after the bye, I understand, because you were in great position at that point. You were the 6th seed going into that first Giants game. You win that and you almost guaranteed playoffs. And I get that's there because at that point you have even higher expectations because you're winning and you look like you're going to go into the playoffs. But this is a team, on paper, we all thought that Jacksonville game was going to be the norm. We thought that this was going to be an offense that was going to score lots of points. And then the Detroit game happens, and we see that there's some inconsistency with offense, but they're still able to put up some points. But then after that, you're 1-1, and you just end up just losing. It was so bad. People wanted Ron fired. People wanted Jack Del Rio fired. People wanted Scott Turner fired. People wanted they wanted the mascot fired, and he wasn't even announced yet. But this was not a good team to start the season, and we got to get past that. So that was my most disappointing part of the season. Was just
and when we were 1-4, this guy here said we were still going to win 9 games. Now we came up a half a game short of that. But
I agreed with you back then too.
Yeah, I still believed in the
5, like a dummy.
Not at 1-4 though.
Yeah,
you didn't think they were going 11-1.
I did.
Everyone was calling for him to get fired. But my most disappointing was the tight end play, specifically with Logan. But more than that was Cole Turner. I mean, he was so hyped in the preseason or in the training camp. Not even in preseason. I don't even think he played in preseason because he got hurt late in training camp. But he was dominating training camp.
Yeah, he was.
And everybody said it. He was this red zone threat, and maybe that's why they were having so much trouble in the red zone because of his injury and Logan coming back from that injury. But the tight end play, which everyone thought was a strength of this team, turned out to be a weakness, and that probably hurt the entire offense, especially in the red zone.
It hasn't been a strength since we lost Chris Cooley. Jordan Reed. Hasn't been a strength.
Yeah.
Our tight end room has not. And that's a position, we'll get to it, they should look at.
Yeah.
That's fair. I don't like ending on negatives. So we got to go back to the positive side. What was, we talked about, the most surprising, but what was the best part of this 8-8-1 season?
Jahan Dotson pick at 16 for me personally. Especially going through the previous drafts, we were all like Jamin Davis at number 19 really last year. He's a day 4 guy. We took him day 1. And this year we have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson sitting there, and it's like, we're gonna trade back and go get Jahan Dotson, a day 2 guy. And we're all like, ugh. Everybody except for Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor was all like, oh, whatever. And he produced when healthy. That kind of sucks that he got hurt a little bit, but he still had the same number of touchdowns with Christian Watson. He was lights out. He made that 16 pick look like a home run for real. He saved the front office on that one. So that was
and I think to piggyback off that, we criticize this front office, rightfully so, with some of the moves that they've made, but that entire trading back, they turned that 11th pick.
Yeah,
right?
It was 11th pick.
The 11th pick, which turned out to be Chris Olave, who a lot of us wanted, I wanted, right, for the Saints. We turned that into Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Cole Turner, Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 picks that we ended up getting by trading back a couple of times. Okay, it wasn't just the Saints.
Yeah.
We traded back a couple of times to get those extra picks, and that's who they picked, right? You got Jahan Dotson, so you got your receiver, and then you got 3 guys. You got a running back that looks like he's going to be a stud. You got possibly your tight end replacement, and then possibly your quarterback of the future.
Yeah.
So, they did well with that 11th pick. So I think that's something really positive to look back on from early in the year.
Yeah, so everybody who's talking about we lost draft position, go back and run that little clip we just said. Draft position is not that important because you never know what happens.
It's who you take, and that's something that that this organization has said, right? It's not where you're picking, it's who you're taking, and that is very, very important and true. Jahan Dotson, 16th pick. We got the 16th pick again. What are we going to do with it? That's going to be a conversation for later. As far as the thing that I was probably happiest with this, and then I saw somebody else had commented this, and it's not Gus Buses, who again is sticking it to Stoner, Wes Schweitzer getting the highest offensive EFF in that final game against Dallas. Big West guy here. My probably the thing I enjoyed most about this season was watching some of these young guys be successful, right? The Defos, the Jamin Davis turning into a legit linebacker. I remember early in the season, and before the season, these 2 yahoos were telling me he was going to be a bust.
No, Trev said that. Just Trev. I said I'm not ready to call him a bust yet.
Well, he was acting like he was.
But Trev said he was a bust.
Well, Jamin Davis is turning into a legit NFL linebacker. You got Cam Curl, who looks good. Mathis looked good before the injury. You pick up a 5th round rookie off the Dallas practice squad in Ridgeway, and that guy looks like he's going to be a big party rotation. At the beginning of the year, people were still lamenting the fact that even with the Mathis pick, that you let go Ioannidis, that you let go Tim Settle. And here we get a couple of young guys to replace them, and they look good. And that you have Benjamin St. Juste when he's healthy, being a legitimate starting NFL corner. You got Jahan Dotson, who looked good. Armani Rogers, an undrafted free agent QB converted to tight end, was making exciting plays and something we want to continue seeing. And so that aspect, I mean, even Chris Paul here in the final game, Stoner was watching him exclusively to see, and that's, I think, somewhere where we can build upon. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. So it's nice to know that there is a young core here as we move forward, that we'll still have these players who are going into their prime, because that is how you end up being a QB away. Maybe it's not the QB, maybe it's just 1 or 2 more pieces, but they have to be young. They have to be emerging, so that way they're cheap enough. You pay for 1 or 2 couple superstar level talents, and you go on a run. And then you have to figure out how to keep it. But right now, they have a lot of talent that is, I feel like, is NFL talent. That's not Jags, right? We talk about how there's a bunch of just another guys that are on the roster, and we have a bunch of players who I feel are better than your average player. I think that they're showing that. and we'll see how it goes. So who knows?
And,
who knows
and
how
just
next
to
season
piggyback
goes.
real quick, Kendall Fuller is only 28 years old. Well, he's
Yeah, it'll
27
be
now.
28. Yeah, it'll be 28 in February. Yeah.
What? I thought he was in his 30s. So he's still fairly. He's basically in his prime.
Yeah, he is.
So
right now.
Yep.
And by the way, I almost picked him for my surprising.
I
player
did
of the year,
too.
too.
I
He had
did
a really
too.
good year.
but-
As much as
Really?
much as Trev is down on him, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, he listened to me though. Clearly,
He was watching.
he was watching.
Yeah. Let's do this real quick as well. This play of the year for you. Gus Bus has Ridgeway doing the German suplex on Damian Pierce. Pierce hasn't been the same since. I don't think anyone would have been the same since. I did talk to Ridgeway's wife about that. I was just like, we need that kind of tenacity. I know some people were upset with it, and I get that it was not the smartest play, but that kind of tenacity is what you want on your defense, and so it's good. What is your play of the year?
I mean, it's so many, but this one just came to my head. The Jahan Dotson slant catch, spin move, touchdown.
It's a good.
You got to see our receiver create in the open field in space and play make with the ball. A lot of our receivers didn't really get a chance to do that. A lot of 50-50 balls, a lot of short slants, and they whatever. But Jahan Dotson showed that not only can he catch, he can make things happen like Curtis Samuel did. So that's the only one I can stick out right now.
I think the McLaurin catch against Indy, when Heineke just threw it up there and he stole it from Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah,
to win that game, basically, to get him
I
down
can't
there.
believe we almost lost that game.
I mean, just to go up there and just steal that from Gilmore, that was an amazing play. So yeah, that's the one I'm picking.
We got Gregory agreeing with you on one. TJ too nasty. Carson to Terry touchdown versus the Jags.
That was a great throw.
That's
when I thought we were legit.
Yeah,
I thought the whole year was legit when he threw that dart to McLaurin in stride against Jacksonville. I said, "Oh, we doing something this year."
And then the 2 bombs of Diami against Tennessee, 2 back-to-back bombs. I was like, Carson's taking us to the playoffs, baby. He got Diami involved. Oh, we here. And then Carson throws the pick.
Yeah, C-No one and Tommy T both going with the full reception and against
I remember
Atlanta.
that. I remember the Falcons game.
Pick 6 on like the second play of the game or something. I think isn't that right?
Oh,
early on, yeah.
Oh, and that was when Mariota threw the pick 6 at the goal line too, right? Yeah, it was tipped.
I don't remember.
What,
Yeah.
I thought it was like the first or second play of the game for Atlanta.
No, remember he threw it and he tipped at the goal line.
Oh, that was Oh, when they were going to score to win the game.
Yes.
Good call.
Yes.
Good call. I forgot about
that. Yeah, and into the game.
Fuller did pick that. Yep, you're right.
It's hard to say this is really my play of the game because I can't remember which team he did it against. But it's one of the plays that's forever going to stick in my head as far as just watching it, and that was Brian Robinson dragging half of the line and the defense and extending the ball over the goal line. And I was already a big fan, and I've loved watching, like, he did like this 3 games in a row where he's literally just dragging everybody. And for him just to have that sheer power where he can just be like, literally has 4 guys bigger than me. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'3", 250. And he has guys bigger than me dragging him one way. And he says, nope, I'm going this way, and scores. That forever, that's what gets me excited going into next season, because we don't know who's going to be the QB, whether or not they can hit Terry and Jahan and stride and do all that. We at least have a running back that's not going to go down easy. That's probably my favorite play. Tommy T's telling me those Eagles. Eric saying that as well. Uptown Dre with D-Force interception in Houston. His range on that play.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. So all good answers, and we appreciate you jumping in the chat with us. This was a long episode here as we hear nearing 2 minutes. So it's a good thing you smashed that over 2 hours. It's a good thing you smashed that over when I asked if the over-under set at 124. People needed to smash the way over. Absolutely true. Make sure that you also smash that like button while you're here. And if they're up to it, go to manscaped.com, get that 20% off and free shipping. You get some good stuff there. Pacers running for every run, and Skybar, get a free drink while you're there. We will be back next Wednesday. We do have lots of off-season content to include QB, QB roulette on who we're going to get. So we're going to try to narrow it down to 10. We'll see if we name one of your 10, but all that's going to be coming in the offseason. Extra content for you, as always, here on Ref the District's YouTube channel. So be staying tuned for that. But until next time,
Pay Lamar Jackson.
Yes, please.
Be a fan.